Hello, everyone. This is criminal profiler Pat Brown, and today we go to Australia. This is a case which I spoke about in a Hangout, and I thought I'd maybe done as much as I could with it, and because it's a very old case, and a lot of times those old cases, you can't even find out what the actual facts are, and there's so much information generated over the years that it's kind of like a ridiculous rabbit hole going, with 20 different suspects. I'm not going to be able to educate people very well by just going down a ton of rabbit holes. So I really wasn't going to go further with this, but the requests kept coming in from patrons. Thank you, patrons in the chat room. And so I took a second look at this. I bought a book by Stuart Mullins and read that. I also watched the Channel 7 news investigation done in 2018. So those two, and I'll get to that in just a minute. And then I decided I'd go forward with it because I found some very interesting things that I really wanted to talk about. So first, I want to welcome everybody who is in the chat room. I have said hello to most everybody, but Olga's now come in, and Dollface, I like that. And Sheila's here, and Kathy's here. And I think I've said hello to everybody else, but if I haven't, welcome again. This is an interesting thing you point out, Walter Matilda. Australia began using decimal currency in 1966. Before that, it was pounds and shillings. And there's a whole point about the money in this case. And I spent a lot of time learning about that whole transition and what all the equivalencies were. Especially for me from the U.S., like what does that mean? What were the pounds worth, and what were they worth in 1966? And then when it switched over to the Australian dollar, and then you have to figure out all this stuff. So I did figure out as much as I think I need to, and I'll share that with you. All right, let me go forth. And before I start, I will do the needful, which is support, help, beg. Just mention, this is an educational channel, and I do appreciate your support. If you'd like to be in the chat room, please do join Patreon. I have only one level. It's $5, $5 US. And that allows you to be in all the live shows. There's 8 per month, 2 per week. And the live shows are patron only. So if you want to be in the chat room, you do have to join. But once this show is done, all of my shows go public. So you're not required to join Patreon because this is an educational channel and I don't want to keep people from learning stuff. So all my shows are public. You don't have to pay the $5 a month. If you're not interested in being in a chat room, you don't have to do it. Although you can still support for $5 a month and not even show up in the chat room. And I'll love you. You can also just subscribe to the channel. That helps with the algorithm and supports us. Who is me? How do I say us? It's like, I must have multiple personalities. Like the video, do share it with people, hit the bell for notifications, and always check my playlists. You can also support the channel through my books below or the little $sign. Okay, that's done. Let's get to it because it's a lot of fascinating stuff with this case. All right, I'm going to give you a very short spiel from Wikipedia, just so you know, if you've never heard of this case, I want to give you enough so when I go into the case more fully, you'll at least have the outline, shall we say. All right, so what happened was this. There were 3 children. There was Jane, who was age 9. That's the bigger girl here. Arna, and that's the girl here. She's 7. And then the little boy, some people mistake for a girl, sometimes depending on hair, who's 4 years old. So 9 years old, 7 years old, and 4 years old. And they were part of this family. These are their parents. These are their parents after all 3 of them were abducted. That alone is just one of the most horrific things to even imagine. So these girls and boy, 2 girls and a boy. And by the way, last week I did a thing on Fort Worth where three girls were abducted and never been found again. They weren't from the same family. And that was shocking in that who would take 3 at one time? And here we have, again, 3 at one time, but all from the same family. So even just quite unbelievable. Anyway, so these three kids, what happened was they disappeared on a day out at the beach. So what happened was their mom, this was on January 26th, 1966. It was Australia Day. And I think this is really important. And anybody from Australia, do chime in on this, because one of the issues about, in my opinion, is they're going to the beach. They had been there the day before. Their dad had dropped them off, and they had enjoyed, the three of them, at the beach. And by the way, children in that day went places. They walked to school on their own. They walked to friends' houses on their own. They ran around neighborhoods for hours and just came home when the street lights came on. And older kids watched younger kids. So please, some people go, how could the parents let them go? This is very common at that time. And she was quite a theoretically responsible girl and loved her siblings and took care of them. So anyway, the day before, Dad had taken them to the beach and they had come home. The next day, Dad is out of town and they wanted to go back to the beach. And it was Australia Day, which means to me, and please tell me if I'm wrong, it's a holiday and it's hot. It's very hot, really, really hot. I think it was like 100 degrees Fahrenheit, and I forgot what the Celsius was because I don't know Celsius. Toasty day. And so people like to go to the beach on a toasty day because they can jump in the water. And so I'm assuming that this beach that they went to, which is called Glenelg Beach, it's written G-L-E-E-L-G. And so it looks like Glenelg. And I have heard it pronounced that way, but when I try to listen to the Australian version, it was Glenelg. So I'm going to go with Glenelg. Again, could be wrong. There should be a fair amount of people on the beach and going to the beach. There was traffic that day because it was a holiday. So that's one of the interesting things about this case, that these three children disappeared on a day which was extremely busy. And there were witness sightings of them, but some parts of it you wonder who was citing them and how did they know those were the same three children, when how many families might have been out there with similar looking children? I just wonder, because it kind of looked like my family when I was growing up. I had two older sisters, and that's about the same age differences. We would be three kids hanging around with a guy. They'd assume it was my dad. And is it my dad? Maybe it was. Maybe there's a bunch of different kids who are like threesomes. And so we have to look at those witness accounts later and wonder how accurate some of them are. All right. So anyway, the mom, they want to go back to the beach. So what mom does is, it's a hot day, and walking is too hot to walk. So she gives them some money to go to the beach and to also stop at a bakery. When they take the bus, they jump out of the bakery. They can buy some good baked goods, some snacks or lunch, depending on who you believe. And then they can get some drinks and go to the beach. Enjoy their time there. When they're finished, they come back to the bus stop and come back home. Well, the problem is they didn't come back home. And so the mother kept waiting, wondering where they were. They did not show up. Father came home. He came home early that day from his trip, thinking he'd surprise the kids. They weren't, but they couldn't find the kids. So they started a police. They went to the police, I think by about 5 o'clock, and going, our kids are missing. They never came home. And so this started a whole police search for them. And let me tell you, it was a pretty freaking thorough search. I mean, they searched the beaches. They searched any place where like three children could have been playing in sand and somehow got swamped by the sand and died under the sand. They looked in drainage type things. They looked everywhere. They went out into the water, sweeping the waters. They sent out dive teams, and they never came up with them. They simply vanished off the face of the earth, and they have never been found. So that's the short version of this. Okay. A horrific crime. Obviously, they were abducted. They were seen with somebody, and I'll get to that. They were seen with a man around that area. They did go to the bakery, and there's a whole thing about the money they used at the bakery, which was way more than the mother gave them. And then they vanished. And there have been many suspects over the years, many, many. And so that's the basics. But I want to get into the issues of how do you analyze a crime like this without going down a rabbit hole and without ignoring ignoring certain evidence and then going crazy about other things that you claim are evidence, which are not really evidence. This is what you see a lot of in today's world. And so I'm going to get into that. Just checking in here. Hi, Beth is here and Kathy is here. So anyway, okay, I got to take off my glasses. I see better without my glasses up close these days. Okay, so anyway, here we go. Lured with sweets. Yes and no. So yes and no. But hi, Beth, you're back. This is an especially disturbing case. And when I put the information out to patrons before it goes live, one of the things I noted was to go watch the Channel 7 news investigation. Now, this is so I want to start with this because this is very, very important. Where do I get my information from and what do I think of it? They wrote this, this is the book that was written. This book was written over here. I read this book. It's by Stuart Mullins. And also he's got a PI fellow that works with him. And I'll show you his face in a minute. Actually, I'll show you their faces now. This is Stuart Mullins. He's also in the documentary. And this over here is Bill Hayes. He's the PI ex-police detective. And a lot of people think he was a murder detective. He was not. I think he was a fraud guy. But he was a detective at one point. He is totally on board with the theory of Stuart Mullins. And this is where I start seeing problems. Okay, so let's go back to where I got the information from. Now, this book, there was an earlier version of this book. It was written in 2013. Mullins wrote it with somebody else. It was called The Satin Man. And I'm going to get into what that means, but basically the Satin Man is his suspect who apparently has a fetish for satin. And he's a pervert. And the satin is what? So they gave him the name Satin Man. And they didn't tell his name in the original book, The Satin Man. In 2023, this book came out. And unmasking the killer of the Beaumont Children. And the killer's name has been mentioned, and it is Harry Phipps. There's quite a few suspects. I'll get into the variety of them. But Harry Phipps is what this book is about. And you'll notice the name, Unmasking the Killer. Now, not and delving into the crime, not looking at a suspect, unmasking the killer. And he has said over and over again, blatantly, that Harry Phipps, who lived in the area, was a businessman, family man, was a pervert who kidnapped the Beaumont children. Hands down, it's this guy. He doesn't have any problem saying it's this guy. Then we go over here to the Channel 7 news investigation. And I will put quotes around that because they basically, Stuart Mullins is in here with his PI. And it's all about his research and his efforts over the years to prove that this one suspect, Harry Phipps, is the guy who did it. He doesn't care about anybody else. He's not looking at this case, shall we say, without prejudice. He's just saying absolutely, hands down, it is this guy. And so he doesn't have a problem saying that Harry Phipps is the killer of the Beaumont children, that he kidnapped them and killed them. So now we have Channel 7 News investigation. And basically what they did was bring these guys in. And there's also another woman who appears in there. She's a let me see what they call her. I can't remember what they actually call her. And people think of her as a criminal profiler. She does certain forensic criminologist. She's really actually a forensic anthropologist, but she has a couple books on the market, or 3 books on the market. Dr. Mallet. I'm not saying anything bad about her, except that she does use the word suspect. Good for her. But she's like all into this. Yep, probably this guy. And she supports basically everything it said here in this documentary. All right, what about this documentary? All right, so The documentary came out 6 years ago. I think it was 2018, and they're about to dig up a place that this Harry Phipps is his place of business. They're about to dig the crap out of it. It's called Castelloy. No, it's called Castelloy. I can't pronounce it. Castelloy. It's a manufacturing company, and they're going to dig up the grounds. And so, as often happens with television documentary people, they don't care about the truth. They care about whether they're going to get a lot of views on this stuff. So they're like, we're going to go dig up the place. And they done dig it up. And they kind of leave it at the end. And that kind of didn't find anything, But anyway, so they present this whole case against Harry Phipps, the guy that he thinks and claims, not thinks, but claims is the killer without question. In this documentary, they basically state that Harry Phipps did it. He states Harry Phipps did it. And it's interesting that one of Harry Phipps' children, his younger son, he had two sons, one who is part of this whole program, basically saying his dad did it, and the younger son, who said, "We loved Harry Phipps, and believe in his innocence. The son of prime suspect in Beaumont Children murders." First of all, he's not a prime suspect. The police have never said that. They say that. The documentary, he says that because he's writing a book. The surviving son of the prime suspect in the Beaumont Children murder case has said his father is innocent, breaking his silence on the claims against businessman Harry Phipps. Wayne Phipps said he believes his mentally ill older brother, and he's correct, in my opinion. His older brother is mentally ill. He's also an alcoholic and a drug addict. His older brother, Hayden, made up the allegations pointing the finger at his father. He's pissed. He's so pissed that he wanted to sue the network for this crap that they put out. He was unable to sue, according to Australian law, because the claims were against his father, and his father is dead. Now, okay, a disclaimer here. I also wanted to sue this channel. Why did I want to sue this channel? Let me show you. Because I did a show with the same Channel 7 News team. They came to Maryland. Actually, we're in the U.S. to interview me. We had a very long interview on the Madeleine McCann case. And I thought they asked a lot of interesting questions. They were like, "Oh, we so love you." Profiler Pat Brown means we're trying to... people talk about pedophiles and how they groom people and try to suck them in. Same true for television. So anyway, they did love me. And so I did I told all the stuff about the Madeleine McCann case, which I've been involved in for years and wrote a book on, and the McCanns pulled my book off the market with a lawsuit threat. And so I was very involved in that. I told my stuff. And when the show came out, oh my God, they had edited me out in many ways. They had inserted questions before my answers that they never actually asked before that answer. They changed it up. It was libelous as all get out. And so it put me in a situation where I was apparently saying things that I could be sued for. So you'll see this here. I'm sorry, that's not it. Sorry, I'm in the wrong place now. Me and the pictures. Okay, here we go. Where is it? U.S. crime expert who told the TV documentary Madeleine McCann's parents may have hidden her body, plans to sue the program for purposely destroying her reputation. You can see it says now suing Channel 7 for making it seem as though she stated claim as fact. And I don't state claims as fact. I say it's a theory. Here's another one. This came out. This was from Mark Sonokonokono. He's fabulous. From another news channel, a good one. Maddie McCann, criminal profiler, claims hatchet job and threatens lawsuit against 7 West. And this is true. And I had my lawyer draw up everything to go after them. And that's why I did make the papers. And I found out that I could not sue in Australia because according to the way things work, I didn't make enough money in Australia to have it be damaging to my my professional life. In other words, if I had lost a lot of income because of what they said, then I could sue. But because I didn't, because I'm not an Australian, and Amazon does sell my books in Australia, but guys, you got to buy more books for me to sue them. I'm like, oh look, I made $1.50 in Australia this month. Y'all don't buy enough of my books. Anyway, I actually couldn't go through with the lawsuit, which was very frustrating to me because I didn't care about, I thought, doesn't matter how much money I make. That's ruining my reputation. And even if I don't make money in Australia, I make money elsewhere. And also it's not about that. It's my reputation, and you're destroying it across the world. Apparently doesn't matter. So I couldn't sue, and neither could the son, Wayne Phipps, sue about what they said about his father. All right, so I just want to point this out, starting out, that what we have here is a problem in the industry, that they're not concerned about truth. They're concerned about making money, about whatever they're into. But truth doesn't have to matter if you don't have to tell the truth. Okay, so I don't know why I feel like putting my glasses back on. I feel lost without them, even though I say my eyesight is changing, so I'm probably going blind. Anyway. What was the name of the arsehole channel? It's Channel 7 News. I'm not in love with it. Yeah, this is true. Only money matters, not your reputation. Well, I cared less about the money. The reputation issue was very important to me. So anyway, the older brother sounds like someone I used to date. Well, I'm going to get into the whole case of what they're saying in this. And a lot of people have seen this documentary. It's very convincing to many people that Harry Phipps is the guy who abducted these children. All right. But is he? Is he a suspect? Okay, there's a bunch of suspects. I will get into the bunch of suspects. Is it reasonable to make him a suspect? Okay. Supposedly the police have said he's a person of interest. Well, a person of interest, you can have like 100 persons of interest. It doesn't mean that you're like over-focused on them, but you're just not taking them out of the mix, because he did live close to the crime, to where the children were abducted. So I'll get into that. There's a reason to look at him, but to call him 100%, say he is the one who did it, is garbage. I'm sorry, it's garbage, and it upsets me because I have no affiliation with Harry Phipps. He's dead now, or his family. It's nothing personal to me, but I am concerned when people aren't willing to be proper about looking at evidence and saying this is what it means. And if I'm going to name a suspect or a person of interest, I should just say that. If I don't have enough proof to say they did it, they don't have enough proof. Neither one of these people have any proof that he did it, which I'm going to get into. And I have, in my opinion, and I'll get into that as well, I don't think it's Harry Phipps. I do not. Absolutely do not. And I have got logical reasons for why I do not believe it's him. So let's go for it. This sort of thing never happened before or after in the area. No, Loretta, it did not. But how often do you have 3 kids kidnapped? And, it was pretty freaky. So that's, a unique thing. All right, let me get into, I'm going to use for the more in-depth information on this. All right, I'm going to go to a site called, I have no idea who these people are, but I'm going to link them because I thought they did a good job discussing things. So I want to give them some credit for it, and so I'll link them below. It's called strangeoutdoors.com, which doesn't sound like a legitimate site, but hey, true crime and great outdoors, the most shocking crimes from national parks, camping trips, backpacker murders, and hiking incidents. But it's way better. It's way better than his book is one that wants to convince you, and so does this. They intending to convince you absolutely, and therefore you can't get a less biased viewpoint. I thought this was a better one, and it was a little more interesting than Wikipedia. So I'm going to go through this, and then I'm going to point out the different issues on the way. All right, the disturbing disappearance of the Beaumont children on Glenelg Beach. All right, so again, January 26th, 1966. Let me get rid of the people behind me. Let me just go back to pictures of the children's. Yeah, we go. All right. The Beaumont Children's case involved the mysterious disappearance of 3 children from Glenelg Beach near Adelaide, South Australia, on January 26, 1966, which was Australia Day. Speculation is that it was an abduction, but clues have been sparse. Thank you for starting off with a reasonable thing. It's believed to be an abduction. Now, he points out speculation is that it's an abduction. Why does this person say this, who I don't know who they are, and they're not criminal profilers, but I appreciate them. Theoretically, it could not be an abduction. Theoretically, the parents could have picked up their children and killed them off. Parents have killed their children before. So they said speculation is it's an abduction. I don't believe the parents had anything to do with this disappearance of their children. Let me say that. And the evidence does not support the parents being involved. But again, I got to at least respect the fact that they're willing to say, the speculation, they believe it's an abduction too, but they're just being reasonable about stating it. Speculation is an abduction, but clues have been sparse, very sparse. Now, if you go to the documentary or to the book, you'll find that they have come up with 30 different clues they call are clues. They're not clues. They are things they're trying to convince you of stuff that is not even relevant. It's not relevant, and then it's not evidence, it's just stuff. And that's not how you analyze a case, with stuff. You look at the evidence. All right. Despite sorry. Let me calm down. Despite a huge search effort, no sign of the children has been found in over 50 years. There's still a reward of $1 million Australian for information. The disappearance of the Beaumont children has been one of Australia's most notorious cold cases, very true, subject to wild speculation at times, absolutely, especially if you can make money off of that wild speculation, including possible sightings of the children living as adults overseas. Oh, well, you hear this all the time. Just down the coast of Australia, south of Adelaide, another mysterious case occurred. That was a Somerton man. Okay, so then they go into some other possibilities. Anyway, let's go back to the Beaumont family. All right, circumstances of the disappearance. On 25 January 1966, during a summer heat wave, Jim Beaumont dropped his 3 children off at Glenelg Beach before heading off on a 3-day sales trip to Snowtown. Jane, the eldest child, was responsible enough to care for the 2 younger siblings. This was a normal situation back in the 1960s in Australia. On the morning of January 26th, that's the next day, on the public holiday known as Australia Day, the children asked their mother to revisit the beach. Australia Day is the official national day of Australia, marking the anniversary of the 1788 arrival of the first fleet of British ships, blah, blah, blah. As it was too hot to walk, the children took a 5-minute, 2-mile bus journey from home to the beach at 8:45 a.m. Now, this is questionable right here. And we're expected to return home on the noon bus. There's some people that say it was 10 o'clock they left. And I can't figure out the exactness because I don't have police reports. But so the question was here, were they supposed to return for lunch? Or were they going to be away during lunch? Or did it really not matter to mommy say, well, enjoy the beach. And if you're hungry at lunchtime, go get yourself some lunch or go get yourself some snacks. And I don't have that exact information. But she did give them money to buy food, to buy those snacks at the bakery, right, which was close to the beach. So supposedly they were to arrive at the beach at 8:45 a.m., which is quite early, and I could never get my children out of bed that early, or myself. But it was a hot day, so I guess they would go to the beach and just arrive hot in the morning. They'd stay through the morning. The children arrived at Glenelg, the Mosley Street bus stop across the road from Wenzel's Bakery, which is where they were seen later. And they were seen there. That's pretty much a fact, buying tasty foods. And then they had a short walk to the beach and Collie Reserve. And I'll get to the Collie Reserve and all the locations of this area. All right. And Jane was dressed. Okay, there's some information about how the children were dressed. And Mullins, who does his book, did give pictures of that. This is what they wore to the beach, and she took a book with her and a bag. That bag on the bottom was to carry the towels for the 3 children. And you will notice a purse, which is interestingly beige. to light brown. Mom said that actually that she had left the house taking a little white purse with her that had the money in it. She said white. Later on, Mullins apparently goes to the Phipps last wife. I think he had two wives, and she's a widow, and so he goes to her home where she lived with Harry, and asked to go through the house, and he sees this purse sitting on a shelf in the basement, but it's not a white purse. It's a beigeish purse and off-white at least. And he goes, "What's this?" And she's like, "Oh, whatever." And she said she bought it at some flea market or some whatever. And then he reported it supposedly to the police, and they wanted to check into it. And then she said, "Oh, I threw it away." And he says that's very suspicious. But interesting enough, he also goes and talks to Jane, that's the oldest girl who's carrying the little purse, to her friend. And she says, "Oh, I think it wasn't white. I think it was off-white or beige." This is where you start getting people who investigate things who you can't see how they got the information, whether they coerce people into changing their viewpoint. If you can't hear the actual conversation, you can lead somebody into changing their mind, and then you say, "Oh, that's what they said." So originally it was white, and now because he saw a non-white purse in a basement, it's now got to be that purse, and it was from the crime, and he's changed the color of it. So that's why the color is now brown. All right. So anyway, they wore those clothings. Nancy became worried when the children did not return home on either the 12 o'clock or 2 p.m. buses, because then it would be kind of a long time at the beach. When Jim returned home early from his trip around 3 p.m., he immediately drove to the beach to locate them. However, he could not find them, and he returned home to pick up Nancy, and together they searched the streets, visited friends' houses. And at around 5:30 p.m., they went to the Glenelg Police Station to report the children missing. Police quickly organized a search, and they went out and all of that. All right. They couldn't find them anywhere. Police quickly established that between them, the children were carrying 17 individual items, including clothing, towels, and bags, but none of these items were located, which is very important because if they're off on the beach and then at this other location, okay, let me try to show you this one little picture. Where is it? Hold on a second, I'm trying to find it. Not that one. Not that one. Shoot. You know me, sometimes I can't find the picture that I want. Where'd it go? Okay. I've lost my picture. All right. I'll use, which one will I use since I've lost my picture? All right. So theoretically, how about this one? Here. So anyway, the beach is across the street from this area here. And this is where they were also seen, supposedly. And none of their clothing was found there. None of their items were found there. So the question would be, where they weren't grabbed off the beach. They weren't grabbed from there. All their items were with them when they left the area. That's the important thing. Okay. So they never found anything of theirs. So whoever they went with, and they did go with somebody who did abduct them, they had all their things with them at some point. Okay. All right. So they also drained the Patawalonga boat haven after a woman told police she had spoken with 3 children who were similar to the description near the haven at 7 p.m. So there we have one of the witnesses is full of whatever, because they were not around at 7 p.m. So, but they drained the place anyway. Didn't find them. On the day of their disappearance, several witnesses had seen the children or people they thought were the children. Children they thought were the children. And I only say this not because I don't believe they saw them, but because sometimes people do think they saw those 3 children and they didn't. As I pointed out, I have to believe that on this day, there were quite a few children out there. And, when you're out at the beach and hanging out, are you really paying attention to other people's kids? Probably not. There's a lot of kids running around, unless they're playing with, like I've gone to a beach with my granddaughter and I could tell you who she was playing with, because I'm sitting there watching. But if I'm sitting there, I don't remember those 3 children over there and those 3 children over there. And 3 is not an odd number. It's not an odd number because a lot of people have 3 children or 2 children and their friend. So I don't know what all these people saw. I can't say these people saw these 3 kids. They saw 3 kids. what they believed. And of course, by the time they're interviewed, it's always hard to tell whether they're making up stuff, whether they're remembering correctly. So witness reports, questionable. I'm not saying that they didn't see them with somebody. Somebody didn't see them with somebody. All right, so on the day of their disappearance, several witnesses had seen the children on or near Glenelg Beach with a tall, blonde, and thin-faced man, which the author of the book says, oh, that was completely wrong. I don't know why they even said that. The guy had brown hair, because his suspect, the guy who killed the kids, Harry, had brown hair. With a suntanned complexion, of thin to athletic build, aged in his mid-30s to mid-40s. Now, that's also interesting because I'm trying to remember how old was Harry Phipps, his big suspect at the time. Hold on, I'm going to try to find. I wish I could see. People have no idea how small. How small the stupid pictures are, so you can't see what you're looking at. I can't see it. Hold on, let me go find. I think he was 48 years old. Can't see those. They're like this big. That's the way it works. And people say, why don't you change what you're doing? And I'm like, this is the program, it's the way it is. All right. No, that's not it. I'm trying to find the exact age. I believe it was 48 years old at the time. I just wanted to verify that for you guys. Which now I can't find it. So it's hard to verify things you can't find. Crap. Anyway, I think he was 48. 48 years old. So is he the proper age? Because he's not in his 30s. Some people say middle-aged. What does that mean? Now, mind you, back in those days, everybody was fairly thin. Not like today, where by the time people are 40 or 50, back in those days, almost everybody was relatively thin. So could you tell the difference if you only saw them for a moment, exact age? So was he 30? Was he wearing a hat that covered up his hair so you couldn't see that? Did he have sunglasses on so if he had wrinkles, you wouldn't see that? I mean, I don't know. I don't know what his body exactly looked like, but they're claiming he was 6 foot to 6'1" tall, mid-30s to mid-40s, clean shaven, was wearing a Speedo type swimming trunks. Speedo, huh? He had a long face and a high forehead, swept back light brown to fair hair, short parted on one side. He was wearing navy blue bathers with a single white stripe down either side. He had with him a towel, shirt, and trousers he had placed on a nearby park bench. Okay. And one of the things they also say is this guy didn't have his car keys with him. He didn't have a wallet with him. I'm like, I'm not sorry. I don't pay that much attention to other people. It's like, you really knew that? Okay. An identikit was drawn up of the man. However, there are some problems with this drawing. The artist was drunk at the time and had to rush the sketch due to a time deadline. That's just funny. But I don't know if that's true, but that's what's written. But is it true? So this is the problem. First of all, you have witnesses that say what they say, and they got a number of people saying different things. So you're trying to come up with So I've often found that these sketches are questionable, but we have one. I'm going to show you the sketch that goes with some different people. Oh, I'll show it to you now. Why not? I will show you. All right. So the Harry Phipps guy. So here's the one that goes with him. This is the sketch. All right. And this is Harry. Okay. Different times. And Mullins, the guy who's been a writer investigator, says there's no question. You can just look at this and absolutely know this is the guy. Really? Why? Why is it absolutely the guy? I mean, there's things that look similar and there's things that don't look so similar. Let me show you another person. This is also a sketch of the guy. This is the way. This is a sketch, and this is the other suspect. I'm going to say that looks more like the guy. And as a matter of fact, I took his older picture. I found an older picture of this guy, and I did a face app thing, and I put him down to youthful. I'm going to say if I had to pick a guy who looked like this guy, I'd pick this guy, and it's not Harry Phipps. So I'll get into who the other suspects are in a bit. But I just want to point out to you that, you know, when you're trying to squeeze, your, you know, whatever you're, you know, you got that round peg and putting it into a square hole, you do anything you can to make it fit. And it could be, but it's not necessarily so. So anyway, they had this sketch and they go on. So anyway, the confirmed sighting of the 3 children occurred at Collie Reserve and Wenzel's Cake Shop. Okay, so let me see. Let me go back to my pictures and see if I can find. Still don't know what happened to the one I wanted. It's so annoying. Okay, let me use. Okay, here we go. This will do for now. All right. The Collie Reserve is, you can see where it is over there. It says Collie, but interesting enough with the Collie Reserve thing is that, I don't know why it's even named that, but it's a green area and the change rooms are there. And originally the Collie Reserve was much closer to the beach. In other words, it wasn't so built up. So they were there, and then they ended up at Wenzel's Bakery. You see what Wenzel's Bakery is way over there to the right. It's not far, far away. They could walk that. It's not a big deal. But they were seen at the Collie Reserve, supposedly. That's what the, let me see if I can find another picture. They're at this location. There are some sprinklers there, and those sprinklers, you know, coming off the beach, you can go there and you can stand under the sprinklers and, you know, clean up and all that. And then there's a changing booth, which you can go over to the changing booth and get your regular date, you know, clothes on and take off. So it's a reasonable place that they were at the Collie Reserve under the sprinklers. And they supposedly, it was said that they were with somebody. So it said that, and there was confirmed sighting with the bakery is absolutely concerned. That's confirmed. No question about the bakery. The Collie Reserve seems reasonable. Okay. The children played with a thin-faced man and appeared relaxed and enjoying themselves. There was no sign they were being held against their will. A woman saw the children between 11 and 12 noon. Okay. So if they came and arrived like at 10 o'clock in the morning, they might have been an hour in the water and now they were washing off. She was sitting on a wooden bench near the Holdfast Bay Sailing Club and watched the children run up from their dip in the ocean. So we are talking that it's not I say Collie eventually had further back when he had more things built up. But at that time, it was like right across the road here from the ocean, or right there by the ocean. So you could come out of the ocean, wash up, and get changed. She watched the children run up from the dip in the ocean. They had laid out their towels before running under the freshwater sprinklers to clean themselves. This witness noticed a middle-aged man. Again, we have middle-aged. What does middle-aged mean? Already lying on his towel before the children arrived and was closely watching them. So supposedly at this location, we have a guy laying there in middle-aged, 30s, 40s, whatever they think he is. Again, I don't know how closely they're looking at him and go, I know how old that guy is. It's just a guy laying on a towel. Was he 48 like Harry Phipps, or was he some other age? So we don't know. Lying on his towel and watching the kids. And I like that, watching the kids closely. I find that interesting because sometimes I'm sitting on a towel and I'm watching kids closely. Doesn't mean I'm going to abduct them. It just means that kids are fun to watch. So that's one of these things that doesn't have a lot of meaning, but she saw them. After playing under the water, the children walked over and started playing games with this individual. Grant, the youngest boy, jumped over him, followed by Arna and then Jane. The 2 girls then began playfully flicking him with their towels. That's the 3 kids, and they were playing with this guy. They had some connection with him. Now, there's a claim that the day before, Arna, the younger one, said, "Oh, Jane's got a boyfriend at the beach," because they were at the beach the day before. Did they run into him at the beach and they were playful and all that? And, you know, little girls looking, he's my boyfriend. I'm going to marry him one day, even though he's already married and older. Kids do that. So could they have met him the day before and he was back that day and was interested in at least one of them, if not all of them? Possibly. All right. So a female eyewitness who got up from the park bench to walk home at 11:30 a.m. stated the man and the children were still playing near the water sprinklers. Later, this is a very bizarre part of this case. Later, the man approached a couple close by and asked, "Did any of you people see anyone with our clothes?" When asked why, he said, "We've had some money taken from our clothes." He doesn't say from a purse. He says from the clothes, which is odd, because the only one who probably would have clothes that would have pockets would be him. Another witness believed, the man stated, has anyone been messing with our clothes? We've had our money pinched. So this becomes important in the sense that why didn't children just, if they have money from their mother, why didn't they just get on the bus and go home? They had not apparently been to the bakery yet, which I also find a little strange. But, in other words, if you're going to go to the beach, I personally would go to the bakery first, get all my little treats, go to the beach and have my little food there. I wouldn't wait till I'm already finished with everything and then go to the bakery and then jump on a bus to go home in 5 minutes. To me, that doesn't make sense. So I'll be curious about your thoughts on that. But anyway, supposedly they had not been to the bakery at all. And so if their money was missing, what would they use to buy the baked goods? What money would they use to get home? And some people think, and it's reasonable, that this was a ruse by the guy, like he took their money. So that when Jane came back, she's like, oh, my money, I don't know what happened to my money. He's like, and then he like jumps up and says to people, hey, do you see anybody messing with this stuff? Because their money, some money's gone. Because you have to wonder if a guy's going to abduct children, and this is very important. If a guy's going to abduct children, the last thing he wants to do is talk to a couple people about missing money and look them in the eye. Like, I'm here with these children. That's an odd thing to do if you're about to abduct somebody, because then you could be recognized. You can be, well, this is exactly how they got the sketch, right? So, but he does that. Why? Theoretically, to convince the child that he didn't, has nothing to do with it, and this is going to be his plot to abduct the children, because now he has money he can offer to have them go to the bakery and help them get home. All right, so after asking the people, the man returned to the children. However, the couple was curious when they witnessed the man dress all the children. They thought this was strange. So supposedly he gets there and he's helping them get dressed, which is a little odd, because they're old enough to dress themselves. So what I don't understand this thing. And if the parents, it's interesting. Mom says, for example, Jane would never talk to strangers, yet she's talking to this guy. Jane would never allow them to do this, but yet that did happen, supposedly. So whether it's absolutely true or not, I do not know, and I'm not willing to jump to conclusions. But it is odd. And the inference here is that he'd gotten them to be comfortable with him, and therefore he's like, hey, let's get your clothes on, and so on and so forth. Then the man picked up his towel and clothes just before midday and walked in a northerly direction to the changing sheds at the Collie Reserve, 142 yards from where they're playing. Jane, Arna, and Grant happily followed him and waited outside the changing rooms before walking away with him in the opposite direction at around 12:15 to the children's bus stop for the return trip. Now I'm going to look again at this picture. Changing rooms are there. The Wenzel Bakery is there. I don't know how that's a separate direction. Okay, let me look here. Maybe if the shower, maybe if the, I think I do remember seeing this. Maybe if the sprinkler showery thing was to the end of the reserve toward the screen, the front of the screen here. You see where the beach goes up and it's kind of like a sharp angle there. If it was over there, and then he had to walk to the other direction to get to the change lounge, changed up, and then he walked that way, and then they would then turn in the opposite direction and go toward the Wenzel Bakery, which is very close to the bus stop. Okay, all right. So then they turned around and went that way. Okay, fine. Okay. Let's see. It says here, Arna had told her mother that Jane had got a boyfriend down at the beach. Now, it's interesting. When Arna said she had a boyfriend at the beach, you would think a boy her age, was a fun little boy she likes. Nancy, that's the mom, thought she meant a playmate and took no further notice until after the disappearance. If indeed the abductor was the boyfriend, it suggests the person was frequently at Glenelg, having seen the children on occasions before, and this would be more likely to be a local than someone living further away. I disagree. Because this is the concept that this person was a local. This is where I have the Harry Phipps issue. Harry Phipps lived right in that neighborhood and supposedly ran on the beach. And he loved to swim, and he was always around that area. And if you're always around that area, you're well known. You're like a rich man in town. You're always around the beach, and he was also around the Collie Reserve. Let me see if I have a picture of his house. That's where Harry Phipps lived. You can see Harry Phipps up there at the end of Augusta Street. Supposedly he came down to the Collie Reserve and you go to the beach, and he's in the area. If you're a well-known businessman in that area and you're hanging out at the beach with those kids, somebody's going to say, I saw Harry Phipps hanging out with your kids. And you certainly, in my opinion, if you're going to hang out at the Collie Reserve, have the kids jumping over you and going up to people in their faces and saying, did you see some money being taken? If you're local, especially Harry Phipps, that's the last thing in the world you're going to do, because you can be identified. The only reason, in my opinion, a person will be so brazen as to go and let people see them is because nobody has a clue who they are. That's my opinion on that. I'll get back to more of that. All right. So anyway, Jane was well aware of the risks strangers posed, and her parents seemed to be surprised she would play with this random man. Here we go again. My kids are smart. No, they're not. You have a 9-year-old kid. They can be fooled into almost anything. So the last sighting of the Beaumont children was around 12:20 p.m. to 12:30 at the Wenzel Bakery at the corner of Mosley and Jetty Road. And that is, again, let me show you where it is. Over there in the right corner, Wenzel's Bakery. They were seen there. They were alive at that time. And I believe this is accurate. 12:20 to 12:30 p.m. A shop assistant at the bakery reported Jane had bought a pie, placing this in a separate bag. She also bought 5 pasties, 6 finger buns, and 2 large bottles of fizzy drink with a £1 note. And this is where the money issue comes in and why she's buying what she's buying. All right, first of all, it appears they're finished with their time at the beach and they're going to go home. Kind of an odd time to buy her food, but all right. That's kind of strange. I still don't understand why they wouldn't buy it on the way. That's what I would do. I'd buy maybe they were planning to go to the beach. Let me think about this. Maybe at 10 o'clock in the morning, they're going to go to the beach for an hour. Then they're going to go to Wenzel's, get a few snacks, come back to the beach, enjoy them, and then go home. Okay. I'm going to go with that. Seems reasonable. Okay. So now let's go to the issue of the problem with what she bought. Let me show you what she bought, because our friend makes a big deal of, and my friend, I say, the guy whose book I do not like and the show I do not approve of. But anyway, he's showing this is what she bought. She bought the pie, the meat pie. She bought the pasties, which are, she's got 5 of those. And then she's got these little sweet things, 6 of them, and two bottles of something, some liquid. And she paid for it with a £1 note. Here's another view of that. Okay, that's what she bought. And the claim here is that's a lot of food for 3 kids. Okay, and the pie was put in a separate bag, so the concept there was the pie was for the man, and she supposedly mentioned the words "the man" while she was there. She didn't say the name of the man; she just said the man. And so this pie was apparently for him. And then there's 5 of the next item, pasties, and then there's just 6 there. And who are they for? Now our friend who wrote the book, he has some very odd ideas about who those are for. But I would say if there's 3 kids and there's 2 extras, well, it could be for the parents if they're going home. And then there's 6, so that could be 3 kids, 2 parents, and I don't know if I don't know why there'd be 6. Don't know, but that's a lot of food for just the 3 kids. And they used a £1 note. All right, this is where it gets interesting. Police viewed this as further evidence they had been with another person for 2 reasons. The shopkeeper knew the children well from previous visits and reported they had never purchased a meat pie before. And the children, by the way, the meat pies have apparently gone incredibly expensive. Look at this. They're now $6. An Australian canteen slugging parents more for a humble staple. $6 for a school pie. Things have gotten outrageous. I bought a bagel this morning from Dunkin' Donuts. It cost me $6. Okay, there was an egg in it, but still, egg and cheese, $6? Seriously? I got to spend my money better. Anyway, so now we come down to the money. So she'd never purchased a pie before. That was weird. And the children's mother had given them only 6 shillings and 6 pence, enough for the bus fare and for lunch. They're saying lunch here. or maybe snacks, depending on how long they stayed. But she had never given them a £1 note. Police believed it had been given to them by somebody else. The food and drink the children bought was quite large for a short trip to the beach. All right, true. Now, let me get into the money thing. I'm going to go to some comments after this. Okay, so our the Channel 7 News, and of course our Stuart Mullins guy. I have to look at his name because I keep forgetting it. Stuart Mullins. He insists that. Let me read you some of the things he insists about. Okay, this is from his book. I'm going to try to hit the right thing here. Nope, that's not it. Okay, but here. Nancy gave Jane 3 beach towels and a hold all, as well as 8 shillings. Now, in this one, it says 8 shillings, and I don't know that that's true, because here they say 6 shillings. But the amount, 6 or 8 shillings, is going to be important. Now, supposedly, according to Mullins, the police did not tell the public that these children had used a £1 note. They should have broadcast this, because he says these kind of things about the £1 note. All right. Okay, that's not the thing. Okay. Hold on a second. Hold on. There. This is what I want. Okay. The £1 note. This is from his book, chapter 9. I want you to go over to the right side, second paragraph, or it's the first paragraph. Well, second paragraph. Author. See the author in the middle there? Author Bill Hayes, who grew up. That's his buddy who wrote the book with him and who is the PI. Author Bill Hayes, who grew up in the United Kingdom, remembers his weekly wage as a youth in the 1960s as £2 a week, which is irrelevant because you grew up in the United Kingdom. The Australian adult wage was £18 a week. Now, there's a thing called, when you look at £18 a week, you have to take into account what does £18 mean in 1966, and what does it mean today, because there's inflation. So it gets very, very complicated. I'll get into that in a minute, how I went through all that crap. But I'm not arguing it. Okay, I wish he had explained it better, but he didn't. He just says it was £18 a week. And you say, what does that mean? What he's trying to indicate is that £18 a week sucks for a wage. That's what he's trying to indicate. All right, so the Australian adult wage was £18 a week, and a lot less for working teenagers, which this wasn't, so that doesn't matter. Irrelevant. So a £1 note represented a significant part of a weekly wage, not an amount of money that an individual from middle-class employment would easily part with, especially to give to a child. Okay, and then he says this. Let me see if I can find the other one that he says. So he's saying this £1 note. When I read this, because I didn't know all the details on the money, how much money was worth what, when he said this, it was so outrageous that this was the wow factor in this whole case, that she gave him a £1 note, and they're like, oh my God. And then the police hid it for a year. And I'm thinking, it's like $100. It's like $100 bill. And I'm having trouble here because I'm thinking, okay, let's assume it really was like $100 bill. A bunch of kids come in to a bakery at noon and hand a guy $100. First of all, he's an assistant. He's going to go, hope that's not counterfeit. He's wondering, what the heck are the kids doing with a $100 bill? That's going to freak him out. He is going to, I don't even know how he's going to handle it. That would be a lot of change to give back to some kids. He would also probably tell the owner of the place, the actual main guy, hey, there's some kids here. They just gave me a $100 bill. Or if the main guy wasn't there, if he actually gave back the change, he must have gone and said, this is really freaky. So then the police come and say, what? These 3 kids went missing. He said, oh my God, yes. And they gave me like a $100 bill. But the police are going to keep this quiet for an entire year because they don't want them, to put it out there, because the killer is the only one who knows, the abductor, that he gave the kids a $100 bill. But I'm going to say this. You got some little assistant working in a bakery. He's going to tell every freaking person he knows, his family, his friends. He's going to be running around town going, guess what? That kid's making me a $100 bill. I'm going to say you couldn't keep that under wraps if you tried. So I'm like, what the heck? How big was this bill? And he's saying, oh, Harry Phipps. Remember, Harry Phipps is the guy. He's this businessman in town. He used to give out these pound notes to people, and because he was so rich, and people were like, whoa. And so he's like the only guy in town who would do this because he's so rich. I'm like, what guy would even give out £100 notes? I'm like having trouble believing any of this. So I'm like, what the heck? So then he says this. All right, that's not it. Then he says this. Those who remember their childhood in 1960s Australia remember the wow factor of having a pound note. Imagine the reception of a child of that era being lucky enough to be given one from a parent, even to hold. Their first reaction would likely be to wave this crisp green bill around the air. This amount of money equated to several buckets of sweets, lollies, together with a multitude of ice creams, cream-filled pastries, and fizzy drinks. Instant friends would appear, and for a short time, the holder of the note would be the king or queen of the castle. Stop overdoing it. You know how much actually that was worth? I believe that the pound note at that time was probably worth about 32 Australian dollars, 20 American dollars. I looked at how much do they make per week? I'll just show you, just so you know that I'm not a lazy person, although I get confused over some of these details. All right, the pound was the currency of Australia until 1966, when it was replaced by the Australian dollars. It was subdivided into 20 shillings. 20 shillings is going to be very important. Keep the 20 shillings. 1 pound was equal to 20 shillings. I'll get to that in a minute. In America, so here's the 32 Australian dollars worth 20.88. Okay. And then it's just 20 shillings again. This is conversion. Okay. Here's a inflation calendar. A basket of goods valued at 1 pound in the calendar year of 1965 would, in the calendar year of 2023, be worth 32.20 in Australian dollars, about 20 bucks in American dollars. So 1 pound, 32 Australian dollars, 20 American dollars. And here we go. Here's a basic weekly wage. In 1964 was $30 a week. Okay, so so this is where I started losing my mind. $30 a week, 30 Australian dollars a week, but this was in 1964. And so it was like 15 pounds a week in pounds in 1966. So 15 pounds a week. So now you cut that up and you got like 3 pounds, 3 pounds a day, which sounds horrible, but 3 pounds a day, if 1 pound is equal to 20 American dollars, is $60 a day. I'm not excited about it if I were working for that, but I think my YouTube channel is getting about that right now. Anyway, so what you come down to is about, when I looked at it all, about $10 an hour wages, give or take some way or the other. Could be $8 an hour, could be $12 an hour, but let's go with $10 an hour. Minimum wage in the U.S. isn't that much better right now if you look at as far as inflation goes. My YouTube channel right now makes minimum wage. It does. I'm not complaining. Yeah, I'm complaining, but I work full time at this. Now, prior to the show, I also did sign language interpreting before COVID. I made 3 times as much. And this is important for understanding whether it's hard to give up money or not hard to give up money. So when you're making minimum wage, or if you're making $45, $50 an hour, when you take your grandkid to the store with her 2 little friends and they get sodas and some Doritos, and it costs you $17 freaking dollars. I'm thinking, dang, that's an entire hour's wage. But before COVID, it was like 20 minutes worth of work. It's a big difference. So if this guy, okay, so now we go back to this case, we got $10 an hour. So let's say we're running American $10 an hour, and that pound is worth about $20 an hour. So somebody handed them a $20 bill. That's not the same as a $100 bill. It's not the same as a $50 bill. $20 bill is not a big freaking deal. I'm pretty sure when I was a kid, if somebody had handed me a $20 bill, and I go, ooh, it's not like it was like the most, if they hand me a $100 bill, I would have been. Even today, somebody it's out there and hands you a $20 bill, you don't think much. They hand you 100, you're like trying to show off or what? Even now you say that. But $20 is not like massive amount of money. But a couple hours worth of work, maybe 3 hours if you have a crappy job. So here's a person who hands these kids a $20 bill. He does not have to be a massively wealthy man. He just has to be a guy who has some money. And who knows, he might be a single guy and has no family to take care of, and he has some money. Let me show you the money at the time, by the way. This is the money at the time. You see the £1 note is the second one there. Above, you will see 10 shilling note. I didn't realize there was a bill that was 10 shillings, but okay. 10 shilling, so he could have had some kind of a bill that wasn't as big as a £1, but then there's a £5, £10. But, if you're going to the beach, you might just want to do this. And you know what I mean? If you're not swimming, you just want to put it in your pocket. You don't want to carry a bunch of change around with you, a bunch of shillings and a bunch of pence. So he's got this 20. He gives it to the kids and he says, go get some stuff. And he's expecting change back. All right. One of the things that bugs me about this whole story is, why doesn't the person who worked in the store tell us how much that stuff cost? I would think somebody has a clue if you're going to do research. How much? Look at the food again. Here's what they bought. How much does that cost? All right. I want to know how much the pie costs and how much the pastries cost. I want to know how much everything costs and how much money the guy was going to get back. It's just because he had a £1 note doesn't make him a millionaire. It just means he's got a £1 note and he's going to get change. Now, what I wanted to point out was this. Remember what I found? Okay, let's see if I can find the spot now about how much the money is. Okay, not that. Okay, here we go. All right. The pound is subdivided into 20 shillings. Now, this is hard for us U.S. folks. 20 shillings was £1. How much money did the mom give the kids when they went on the bus? 6 to 8 shillings. 6 to 8 shillings is like 1/3 of a pound. Okay, let's go with 1/3 of a pound. Between 6 and 8. Let's go with 7. We're going to go with 1/3 of a pound. If the mother of these kids was able to afford to give them that much money, it's 1/3 of a pound. In other words, she handed them like $6 or $7. Why is it so extreme that some guy who happened to have a £1 bill gave it to them and said, bring me back the change? Which is probably exactly why they were waiting for this guy after they got the stuff from the bakery, because they had change. So this whole thing is blown up out of proportion, that the guys would be wealthy as all get out to have this £1 note, and the police held that high. Well, a £1 note wasn't that freaking big a deal. So if they didn't say anything for a year that was a £1 note, it was because it's not the biggest hidden piece of information. It's just that maybe they're just going to say, okay, we're just going to see if somebody comes in and confesses, they'll say, oh, the kid used a £1 note. Not because it was like a huge amount of money, just because that would be what he handed the kid. So the police had a good reason to keep it quiet, and it had nothing to do with trying to hide the rich Harry Phipps from the public, because only Harry Phipps would ever have a £1 note. This is the kind of freaking nonsense that we see in the book. The way they're trying to, these guys are trying to explain why Harry Phipps is the only guy who could have done this, is because they're trying to constantly convince you with stuff that is irrelevant and has really, quite frankly, no meaning. So yes, somebody gave them a £1 note and to get this food, which was clearly not their £1 note. Somebody did, I believe, take their money in order to put them in a position of not being able to have the money to get on the bus and can't get the food. Somebody had them go to the bakery. Now I'm going to get into why they ended up at the bakery alone. They weren't with anybody. Where was that other person? The other person was only in one of two places, in a house or with his car. Okay, those are the two. Keep this in mind, house or car. So the kids are at the bakery buying the stuff on their own. They do not have their towel. They do not have any bags with them. Their towels, bags, whatever, are not with them. So they're either in a house or in a car with the guy, whoever the guy is. He sent them to the bakery at some point. I have a theory about when he sent them there, and I'm going to get into that with the Harry Phipps theory, and to get this stuff. And after they got this stuff, they either went to a house and vanished, or got into a car and vanished. So that's the basics of this case. And I'm going to get into the suspects and into why Harry Phipps has become the supposed number one suspect, not of the police, but of these two guys and of Channel 7 News, and of a whole lot of people out there who believe these two guys in Channel 7 News. So I'm going to go to your comments for a second so I can take a break and breathe and go into the next part of this. All right. All right, let's see. Um, Mullins looks like an actor I've seen. He's very, he comes across very well. People like him. He's got a nice personality. It doesn't come across badly at all. That's not an issue. The problem is what is his purpose behind all of this, and why does he want to convince everybody so badly? Now, either he truly is a believer, or he knows how to make money. I don't know which one it is, or both. So let's see. Charlotte says, when I was in high school, my cousin and I used to go to the movies for 25 cents. Oh, isn't that awesome? Yeah. But, maybe 25 cents was hard to come by back then. So, it's questionable. What is Loretta saying? I think Pat subconsciously wants us to send her £1 notes right now. I don't have any pounds. I will tell you, I take pounds. I take dollars. I take gold bullion. No, guys. Yeah, sometimes people say, well, Pat, you're awful, like truthful about things, maybe TMI, but I'm just one of these people that understands the world as the world is. This is a reality. This is any reality, and I'm an honest person, so I'm going to tell you things straight. But I want you to see. I'm very interested in how things work. This is my big thing: how things work, and how things work in real life. Because we all go through we all have these experiences. You can tell me your experiences; they're very similar to many things I've experienced. And some of you go, yeah, I know what you're talking about, Pat, and it's true. I mean, that's $17 bill at 7-Eleven for my granddaughter and her two friends. I'm like, this really sucks. I mean, because I'm like, why did I pay for this crap? It's terrible. Let's see. I'm gonna check out my glasses so I can see better. Definitely a problem here. He's trying to fill pages. Yeah, he has some very, very fanciful stories that don't have evidence. This is what bothers me. If you're going to put out information, I want to know the solid evidence that backs it. And I'm going to show you that most of his evidence is very questionable. His information is very questionable. It comes from very questionable sources. Let's see. Kathy says, oh my, not having to worry about buying school lunches now. I worry about them, the kids, of course. Yeah. The school lunches at my granddaughter's place, she says they all come in plastic bags now, even the hamburgers and stuff. She said they're all gross and disgusting. I don't know, since COVID, they put everything in a plastic bag and just microwave it. Nuke it. It sounds repulsive. So she doesn't like eating there. So I pick her from school and she wants sushi. The child is really expensive. Really expensive. Let's see. I'm going backwards here just to see what you have to say. A lot of people have conversations that are, in and out of this show. So people like to have fun. But I'm looking for questions about the issues at hand here. That's a good point. Stephanie says, I feel like describing the person as a boyfriend implies a younger person, not their age, but more like their 20s. You would think he'd be at least kind of cute and not grandfatherly. Yeah, I would think so too. So some of this stuff is without seeing the police reports and seeing who the witnesses are. I don't have a way to know whether we're talking about people who are making up crap or they're accurate. It's very, very difficult to know. What if a man, says Walter Matilda, who they sort of knew, said, let me take you out for lunch and then you can keep your money. My car is over there. Yes, this is part of how did he coax them into doing what he did. So there's no question, in my opinion, that the evidence does support that the children were abducted. They met somebody. They had to meet somebody who gave them the pound note. So here's what we know. So there's a difference between just guessworking and things that actually make sense that we know. We know that they had that pound note and it didn't come from home. It had to come from somebody. They were with somebody around that beach area. They went to the bakery with the pound note and bought an excessive amount of food, which either means they're buying something for somebody else or possibly for the parents as well. Somebody might have said, hey, get me a meat pie and get something for your parents. That would be a nice thing to say. They used the pound note. It probably did not cover the entire food, so they probably did get change. If they got change, they had to return it to the man. Once they left the bakery, they were never seen again. Okay, so what happened to them? All right, now, so let's go further. All right, so there's a whole bunch of people say a whole bunch of nonsense. There's hoax letters. I'm not going to get into that because I don't tell stories. There's the picture. Why did my picture disappear? Sorry, I'm so upset about my disappearing picture again. You know me and the disappearing picture problem. It always happens. I just don't understand why I keep losing it. It's my favorite picture too, and I thought I brought it over here. Hold on, I'm looking for it. Ooh, maybe I found it. Is that it? Yeah, there's my picture. Oh, yes. All right. Okay. So I want to use this picture because I think this is more useful than the other stuff. All right. And I'll get to Mullins, where he says that they went off to the house of his suspect. Oh, no, I'm sorry, of the killer. All right. So what do we have here? We have this is an explanation. A, just so you understand the whole scenario here. A, up in the top, is the bus stop where the Beaumont children arrived around 10:15 p.m. That's A. B, down there is the beach. Between 10:15 and 11, the children swim in shallow water. Jane was very good about making sure her little brother didn't go too deep. Just north of the jetty and beneath the B in the picture. So they're on the beach there. B. C, now this is where it's a little messed up. C, it says, is the water sprinkler at the Collier Reserve. However, this may be a future picture, and that's not exactly the sprinkler. And that's what I was trying to point out. It's really not there. It's really D. That's probably where they played under the sprinkler, D, because you see the beach is right there. Then they cross a little road, and they have a little park play area, which you can get off the sand. That makes sense. And now you're playing in the grass and you're drying off. And first you wash up and then you dry off. That's a very reasonable thing. The witness was sitting in front of the now non-existent Holdfast Sailing Club. So the grassed area would be right on the seafront there. The children were seen with a mysterious man. And initially he was described as laying face down and watching the children. I don't know how you watch the children like, well, maybe his face is toward the beach. Okay. Around 50 minutes later, the man is viewed playing with children as they whip each other with towels. Now, so they're at D. Okay. Then G is this place says G is where the Collier Reserve change rooms are. And the other place says the G is to the west of D. And this says it's to the east of G. Of D. So go figure. So anyway, they supposedly went from D to G, changing their clothes, and then they went up to E, which is the Wenzel cake shop, where they bought pasties, a pie, and drinks. They seem to be alone in the shop. So they're up at E now. Somewhere they went from G to E for some reason. Let's keep this in mind in this picture. They seem to be alone in the shop. F is where the bus stop would be for them to get the midday bus, then to go home. Okay. So that's a really nice picture. All right. So now, the kids disappear, and there's quite a few suspects. There's a guy. I'm just going to name some of them just so you know who they are before I go to the killer, the guy who's the killer, because Mullins says so, and so does 7. Anyway, Bevan Spencer von Einem. He's a character. He was sentenced to life imprisonment in 1984 for murdering the son of Adelaide newsreader, blah, blah, blah. They thought he had accomplices, blah, blah, blah. Why was he even part of this? He was known to have visited Glenelg Beach to watch children in the changing rooms, but he was younger, 20 to 21 years old. Well, again, the boyfriend think it'd be more like him because he'd be 20 to 21. He was convicted of murdering 15-year-old boys and suspected of killing males in their teens, and 20 his victims older than the Beaumont children. So in that case, he wouldn't be a pedophile, and he liked boys more than girls, but he was supposedly had lurked around the area. So this is the problem. but that's one of them. Now, Arthur Stanley Brown. Remember the guy I said looks darn like that picture? Now, he's my favorite suspect. And I only say favorite because he darn well looks like that picture. But also, he's interesting. Okay, who is he? Arthur Brown has been linked to both the Beaumont case and the infamous Adelaide Oval abduction, which occurred in 1973. In 1998, he was charged. So he did get charged with murders. He was charged with the murders of sisters Judith, 7 years old, and Susan, 5 years old. So now this is why he's a great suspect. He was a pedophile, and he went after a 7-year-old and a 5-year-old, which is very similar to the Beaumont girls, who were 9 and 7, and that extra little boy, But they disappeared on the way to school in 1970, which is 4 years after the Beaumont abductions, and were less than 20 meters from their home when they were abducted. They had left home only 10 minutes earlier, walking to the bus stop. Their naked bodies were discovered 2 days later in a dry creek bed. Both girls had been raped, and each had been stabbed 3 times in the chest. Both of them were choked to death before the sexual assaults took place with bare hands. All right. And then the school uniforms were neatly folded and placed beside them. How lovely, because he's a neat fellow, I guess. One man saw a slender male leaning out of a car talking to the girls at the bus stop at 8:10. And then they said they apparently arrived at a gas station with some girls in the car. And they said, "When are you taking us to Mummy? You promised you'd take us to Mummy." And they seemed upset. And then he vanished and the girls ended up dead. All right. Brown was a very strange man and was meticulously neat to the fault, with immaculately pressed shirts and an odd habit of folding garbage up into neat squares before disposing of it. So they thought that was interesting. Let's see, some other stuff here, some other stuff here, some other stuff here. So then he was arrested. And his July 2000 trial was delayed after his lawyer applied for a Section 613, unfit to be tried, because he had dementia and Alzheimer's disease, and he died 2 years later at the age of 90 with no criminal conviction in a nursing home. He left no blood relatives and gave instructions to his carers that no death notices be published. He died an innocent man, never having been convicted of any crimes he was charged with, including the rape of 6 children and 45 sexual assault charges. His facial similarity to the identikit for both the Beaumont and Adelaide Oval cases, where 2 children had disappeared. He had very good, he looked a lot like it. Searching for a connection to the Beaumonts, however, was unsuccessful, as no employment records could shed light on his movements. Some of the documents were believed lost in the 1974 Brisbane flood. It's also possible that Brown, who had unrestricted access to government buildings, may have deleted his files. Although there is no proof that he had ever visited Adelaide, a witness recalled having conversations with Brown in which he mentioned having seen the Adelaide Festival Center nearing completion, which put him in the city at 1973. Another witness reported seeing a man near the Oval carrying a young girl. She said it was him. And so was he ever actually there? Now, let me show you where he lived. And so he lived, it's a 14-hour drive from where he lived to Adelaide. 14 hours is not a big deal. A lot of guys drive 14 hours, got nothing else better to do. You want to go see something, you want to go someplace. Let me look at the picture again. Both are on the coast, so do you really need to find a beach someplace else? Did he know somebody? Did he have any reason to be there? I don't know. Will I say he was the killer of the Beaumont kids? No, because I have no idea. Oh, so I'll point here. Let me point here because I did this with a face app. Let me point here. I don't know. I'm just saying he's a pretty interesting suspect because he did kill children. Well, he wasn't convicted, but he seems to be the one who was guilty of those 2 girls, and they were the right ages. He looks like the identikit. So, hey, I don't have a problem with him being a very high suspect. There's a guy named James Ryan O'Neill. What was his issue? I'm trying to see who he was and why he'd be interesting. He rolled through Adelaide at some point. That's not convincing. A guy named Derek Ernest Piercy, he was a good suspect, supposedly. Why? He was only 17 at the time. He's a crappy suspect. No, I don't believe he had had that ability. A guy named Alan Anthony Munro, a lot of people think is the guy. He was investigated by the police. He had himself investigated by the police and cleared of involvement. Sorry. In 2015, Alan Maxwell McIntyre had himself investigated, and he said that he knew this guy named Alan Anthony Munro, and he came to his home with children's bodies in the boot of his car. And he said that originally thought that the one of the kids was a boy because of his short hair. Anyway, Munro was a former scoutmaster, pleaded guilty to 10 child sex offenses, including buggery and indecent sexual assault. He was sentenced to 10 years in prison. Munro was convicted over an indecent assault in 1992, got 7 more months, and then he moved to Cambodia where he can have lots of little children. And he operated a ladyboy bar. Interesting. In June 2017, Adelaide detectives were given a copy of a child's diary written in 1966, which allegedly placed Munro in the vicinity of Glenelg Beach at the time of the children's disappearance, supposedly. No evidence linking him to the disappearance. So those are some of the other ones. Now let's go to good old Henry Phipps. All right, because Henry is the man of the hour, according to people who want to make a lot of money. All right, so let's go to Henry. Here he is, Henry. Now, how in the heck did Henry become this major suspect? Now, mind you, the police have never said he's a suspect. They said he's a person of interest and seem rather unwilling to go any further than that. Okay, Harry Phipps. He died in 2004. He was a local factory owner and a member of Adelaide's social elite. He was identified as a possible suspect after the publication of The Satin Man. Now, here is our little buddy again, Mullen. He was involved in the other guy, and before he published this book, Unmasking the Killer of the Missing Beaumont Children, he published another book called The Satin Man, and that's when he became a, quote, suspect. I don't think so. I think he was a person of interest because, people say, hey, this guy could do it. Police might have to at least consider it. That happened in 2013. The book did not name the identity of the Satin Man, but his estranged son identified him soon after the Satin Man as the Satin Man impossible murderer. Now, his son, oh Lord, this is the guy that has many issues, many issues. Do I have a picture of him, or did I lose that picture too? Hold on, let me look for him. Where'd he go? I have a picture of him. I know I do. I want to put his picture up. Where did he go? Oh, here he is. No, here he's not. Where the heck did he go? I'm going to go run through these pictures now. Huh. He's really missing. Dang it all. Okay, hold on a second. I got to find his picture. Wow. I really have lost this picture. God, how does that happen? How does it happen? It happens every time too. Y'all mock me endlessly about the fact that I keep losing the pictures of people that I want to show you, and it's true. Where'd he go? I have tons of pictures here, but wait a minute. I had this picture. Hold on a second. Now this is going to drive me nuts. Oh, maybe he's over here. No. Well, that's where patience is really useful. Where did he go? Well, that's not him. Where'd my picture go? Seriously. Unbelievable. Anyway, he's a dude. It looks like a guy. This is pitiful. It looks like a guy. I actually know I made this picture, and the picture seems to have gone missing on me. Let me see. I got to look up here. What is that? That's not the picture. Those are pasties. That's not the picture. Oh my God. Okay, never mind. I'm just going to go on and talk about what I got to talk about because I've somehow misplaced things again. All right. So anyway, he looks like a guy. Anyway, he's the son of Harry, this guy, because he's really the important guy here. So he's his son, and he's got two sons. He's got the older and he's got the younger. All right. So now, so wait a minute. Not everything's just moved on me. Okay, so let's talk about Harry Phipps. Okay, so the son is the one who identified him soon after as a Satin Man, because he'd actually had conversations with Mullins, right? Phipps bore a substantial likeness to the police artist's impression of the man talking to the children on the beach. He was a relatively tall man, around 6'1", and did have light brown hair in 1966 and a thin face. Okay. He was wealthy and known to be in the habit of giving out £1 notes. And this, by the way, the whole thing about giving out £1 notes comes from his son and supposedly some of his son's friends. Now, these people most of them are never mentioned by name in the book. And that always leads me to be suspicious. And alleged to have pedophile tendencies. Alleged. Okay, there you go. Alleged. And in the book and in the documentary, it's not alleged. The son says that his dad raped him from the time he was a young boy 3 times a week. He said that his father had a satin fetish. He liked to wear satin pajamas, and he wore satin gowns, and he was a cross-dresser, and he was a part of the society where he'd go out and wear all these women's clothing. And that some family member eventually said, "Oh, didn't you know he was gay? You figured it out?" And then, but he supposedly was good with a sewing machine, and he made all these gowns and things, and that he walked around the house in gowns, and supposedly satin excited him so much. He had such a perversion with that fetish, with that paraphilia, with that there were semen stains on the satin, because he would, once his male part touched the satin, it immediately, so wasn't that a great explanation? That excited him so much, the rubbing of the satin on him. So says his son. And then there's a claim that some other relatives say that's true, that they saw these kind of stains on his satin clothing. I have no proof that any of this is a shred of truth. Now, he supposedly did have some satin pajamas. He's a rich man. Satin pajamas can be very comfortable. They're very comfortable. A lot of people like to sleep in satin, it's very smooth and silky and is nice in bed. Just because you wear satin pajamas doesn't make you perfect. Did he love satin in general and just like to have satin dressing gown? I don't know. Did he like to dress up in women's clothes? I don't know. Does that make him a pedophile because he dresses up? Does it make him a pervert? Does it make him a sex offender because he dresses up in clothes? Even if he's a cross-dresser and goes to a club where men cross-dress and like to show up as ladies, if that's even true, does that make him a sex predator? And the answer to that is no, because there's a whole bunch of people who out there who do that who are not sex predators. Now, the claims that his son says that he raped him repeatedly until he was a teenager when he finally fought back, there's zero proof that that's true. Zero proof. And that's his claim. And his younger brother says the guy's got mental issues. He's fabricating this stuff. He told this to his wife, and his wife supposedly believed him. His wife, they're now separated, but divorced, but they're supposedly just friends still. And she totally believed him because she worked with people who have been, victims of rape and sexual assault. And she says, everything he says is so clearly accurate. And so she says, I believe him totally. But mind you, she marries this guy who's got alcohol, drug problems, and rage problems, and a whole bunch of other things. I might say that she doesn't have a good sense of judgment of anything. So, and then there's a claim from the younger brother and his wife that the reason the older brother was saying this stuff because he hated his father for whatever reasons, maybe because his father did do something to him, but maybe just because he hated his father for other reasons. Maybe he's a little psychopath. Who knows? And so They also say that the reason he's saying these things is because he was pissed off about how much money was left to him in a will. I don't know if that's true either. All of this stuff is in the book and alluded to in many ways in the documentary. And there's no absolute proof of anything except so-and-so, which is a nameless person, said this, and this person said that. And I don't have any proof that any of these people actually said these things or that they actually knew these things. So I don't know if he sexually assaulted his son or he didn't. And if he sexually assaulted his son, was he into boys and not into girls? I don't know. But he's kidnapped 2 girls, so I'm with a little boy. Did he kidnap the child for the boy and the girls were just collateral damage? But that's usually not how it works. So I don't know what kind of guy he was. He was a wealthy man. He contributed a lot to the community. But was he a true pervert? And they're saying, oh, the police covered up for him. Everybody covered up for him because he's a rich guy. Okay. Let's say that's true. Let's say it could be true. Do I still think he kidnapped these girls? No, again, too well known. This guy was out and about all the time. He was very well known in the town. One of those faces, you'd know who it was. Oh, that's Phipps. That's Harry Phipps. He's going to go down to a place and hang out with kids, go up to people, show his face and say, hey, they took some money from him. It should make sure his face is seen. Really? And I'll get into why this story gets even stupider. So he was known to give out £1 notes. Oh, God, get out of here. Okay, and lived only 300 meters away from Glenelg Beach on the corner of Augusta Street and Sussex Street. That is true. Now, he was 48 years old at the time, and they say he looked a lot younger. Some people, those who knew him, said he looked a lot younger. Did he or didn't he? So in 2007, Phipps' son Hayden, that's his son's name, the one who's making the claims, 15 at the time of the disappearance, came forward to researchers. Now, came forward. When people come forward to researchers, how did they find out the researchers were even researching? Came forward. I'm going to say they're like, knock, knock, knock. Hey, we want to talk to you. Came forward to researchers with the claim he had seen the children in his father's yard that day. So he is the witness to part of the crime, you see. He claims this. Now watch what he claims. All right. Now, hopefully I find my picture. There we go. I got my pictures this time. All right. Okay, so he claims that he was outside in the backyard and was he called a cubby house, supposedly a couple pieces of wood where he could hide behind and smoke some cigarettes or something, even though his younger brother says he never really didn't smoke cigarettes. But anyway, he said he came home, he was working at the bowling alley, and just happened to show up just at the time this was all going down. So he's back in the cubby hole, smoking some cigarettes. Now, mind you, it's 100 degrees out there. It's hotter than hell out there. Really? Does he really want to sit out and swelter? But anyway, okay, smoking. And he sees his dad come up with the 3 children. The 3 children have towels. Obviously, they're not back in the bag, but they have towels, you see. He saw them. I says, I was only out there long enough till he took them inside. After that, I came out to the cubby house and went out inside to see what was going on. And the front door is open, so I just assumed they left out the front door. So now he's saying he went back in the house, but they were gone. Okay? Then he says this. They're talking to Harry. They go, now, who's asking the questions? Remember the PI dude? Yeah, the PI guy. He is apparently the one who is, as far as I can see, is doing the questioning of Hayden, the son. And I've never seen, from the little bit that they put in the documentary, because that's where I got it from. Now, mind you, if these two have talked at length to Hayden, why isn't the full interview in the book? But it's not. So they get these little snippets of the interview during the documentary. You can hear Hayden's voice. You can hear him asking the questions. Okay? Now, the way he asks these questions is questionable. So the PI says, they're talking to Harry. They go inside the house, you hear? And then he goes, yeah, they never came out. Okay. What do you mean they never came out? I thought you said the front door is open. You thought they left. Now you say they never came out. So he's smoking in the bushes. No, he's in the cubby hole, whatever it is. Sees his dad go in the house with 3 little children. Now, mind you, the dad is married. There's 2 boys. I don't know who the other boy is. It's a holiday. The other boy should be at home, right? Where's the other boy at? nobody talks about that because it's a younger one. He's not working. So he's out there smoking, sees his father go into his own house with 3 kids. Now, mind you, let's take a look again at that map. All right. Okay, Harry Phipps' house right there. Now, this is what Mullins says. They're at the change rooms, and then the money is missing from the girls, from the children, so they don't have any money. So he tells them, "Oh, I got some money back at the house." So they walk down Augusta Street to Harry Phipps' house. You see, you're going to kidnap 3 children. I don't think you want to pray down a road that everybody knows you on. So they can say, "Why is Harry out there with those 3 kids?" Would you do that? You're not that much of an idiot. But he's claiming they walked all the way from the change rooms down across the green there, or down Augusta Street to his house. And now his son is smoking cigarettes on the bushes. And then he sees daddy go in with the 3 kids. Where his younger brother is and where the mommy is, I don't know. Anyway, he goes into the house. And then a minute later, he goes into the house and the kids, they're not there. Now he says either they went out the front door or they never left. Which one is it? Make up your mind. But then it gets stupider. So then we see this question. Okay, so did you hear any noises, any screaming or any shouting? No. Nothing? Any gunshots? So he puts that in his mind. You don't ask questions like that. You say, did you hear anything? You don't, did you hear anything while you were outside? You don't give him suggestions. He suggested things that didn't go over. He goes, how about gunshots? So then he answers this. Yeah, we heard some gunshots go off. Who's we? Suddenly there's a we. Where's it? Who's the other we? Who's the other person that suddenly is in smoking cigarettes with him? Because I didn't hear that there was another person there, but now it's we. We heard gunshots. All right. Now we got, imagine this. The 3 kids have gone in with Harry into the house. And he's interested in having sex with some of those kids. So he shoots them all dead. As you do when you want to have sex with them. What? And then Hayden, the son, says he sees his dad opening up the back of his vehicle and putting in these bags of something. So it's like surfboard equipment or whatever the heck he says is in it. But he says it's real, or he's used like some things you put on surfboards, but they're really, his dad used to use and put all his silk stuff in, all his silk gowns and stuff. But he thinks that he's insinuating that they're not gowns in there. They're bodies of the children. So now he's putting the bodies of the children in the car. Where's he taking them? Taking them someplace, right? So now dad walks down a main street that he's known on, goes into the house, immediately kills the kids, doesn't have sex with them, puts them in the trunk of his car and takes them somewhere. That's the story so far. All right. So let's see where it goes. Then he says 2 other persons, youths at that time, said that Phipps had paid them to dig a 2 times 1 times 2 meter hole in his factory yard that weekend for unstated reasons. It's in the show. So in the show, you got these 2 guys who said they were teens at the time. And during that weekend, Harry Phipps asked them to dig basically a big, huge hole and like this. That's what they're claiming, that they're digging this big hole. Okay. So, here we have, yes. So at the direction of Harry Phipps, David and Robin dig a grave-sized hole at the back of the factory, Saturday 29th and Sunday, the 30th of January, 1966, 3 days after the children go missing. Once completed, 3 days afterwards, where are the children now? Are they in a freezer someplace, or are they just like disintegrating? 3 days after, once completed, Harry pays them in pound notes. He gives them £1 each and tells them to fuck off, you little cunts, and never come back. Okay, lovely. That's supposedly the way he treats people once they do whatever he wants. I just, so really? Okay. All right. Let's see what else we have. This is the place. Okay. So this is the Castelloy factory. The smaller one to the right is where young Christine, that was another person, said she was sexually abused by Harry Phipps and his associates. Oh, it's another story. Anyway, this is the location. And behind one of these buildings is a claim that they had to dig this dig hole. And so then on November 2013, a 1 meter squared off section of a factory in North Plimpton, which Phipps had owned, was excavated following the new information about his possible involvement in the disappearance of the children. A ground penetrating radar found one small anomaly which can indicate movement or objects within the soil, but the dig found no additional evidence and investigations on the site were closed. So that all turned out to be nothing. On 22 January 2018, when we know a certain news channel decided to make money, Adelaide detectives announced they would return to the factory site and conduct further excavations after a private investigation sponsored by Channel 7 Adelaide. The hole on 2nd February 2018 took 9 hours. Animal bones and general rubbish were found, but nothing related to the Beaumont case. So pretty much nothing. So despite the failed Castelloy dig, that's the name of the place, there is still the possibility that Harry Phipps was the Beaumont children's abductor. All right. Now, mind you, also in this documentary, or whatever we want to call it, there's this woman that shows up. Here she is, and she doesn't have a name, and she says that in 1979, which is 13 years after this Beaumont thing, here she does all this very surreptitiously, and she says that when she was a school child of 15. She was walking by and there was this man well dressed outside and said, "Hey, you're very pretty, blah, blah, blah." And somehow she went off with him. She said she doesn't know why. She sort of went off with him. And then he raped her. And then she ran home and didn't want to tell dad because dad would just say you deserved it. And so she says that seeing a picture later during when this became very well known in late 2000s, suddenly she sees a picture of Harry Phipps, and she says, "Oh my God, it's him! It's him!" Now, mind you, she walked by this factory every day, and this guy was supposedly around a lot, just hanging out in the street corners. I just have a real hard time believing that a guy who's wealthy and busy has time to just stand around the street corners. And she suddenly recognizes him many, many years later. We don't know her name. She didn't turn him in at the time. Now people say, "Oh, see, that's absolutely proves that she's telling the truth." I'm not saying she couldn't have been raped, but I just don't believe that she was necessarily raped by him, because she sees him years later. And now during this time when the documentary is coming out, right? And it's all over the news. Now she goes, "Oh, it's him." So this is the kind of stuff that is in the documentary and in the book. So it's a bunch of garbage. So there is no proof at all that this guy committed the crime. Now, let's take a look at this. I'm going to go into basically what I think about this entire crime. Again, I don't believe it's anybody from town, because there's no way you're going to spend that much time in public with the children, walk around with them and all that if you are well known, especially if you're well known. Now, let's go to what would have happened from the time the kids left the beach. They either went in a car or they went to a home. All right. Now, the claim of him going to the home with him, Harry. So Harry, the claim is they walked to Harry's home. Think about the home thing. So they walk down the main street, go to Harry's home. Well, where's Harry's home? Harry's home. Here's Harry Phipps' home. They walk down Augusta Street in broad daylight to Harry Phipps' home. When they get to Harry Phipps' home, supposedly his whole thing is he tells the kids at the beach, "Hey, I got some money at the house. You can get the bakery treats. I'll give you some money for the bakery treats, and then I'll take you home." So he gets the kids to his house. Mind you, if you ignore his son's statements that he shot them all right then and there, he gets them to his house. Why in God's earth would he give them a pound and tell them then to go walk down the street to Wenzel's Bakery, and then, according to his son, walk back to the house with all the treats? Why would he want them seen walking from his house and back to his house? How does that make any sense? Once you have your little victims in your house, you don't let them leave again. That makes zero sense, because they could talk to anybody along the way. They could escape. They could run away with their pound. You could tell the bakery guy, "Oh, it's the guy, he lives right down there at that house, right down there." You would never let those victims walk away. You already have them. You will take care of them right then and there. You tie them up, put them in the basement, whatever you're going to do. Rape them, eventually kill them. You're not even going to waste your pound on them. There's no reason to do it. So that they would go to his house and then leave his house and go to the bakery and come back is nonsense. Absolute nonsense. Now, what is the alternative? Well, let's look at the alternative. Let's see if I can find, which picture am I looking for this time? Okay, let's go to this picture in spite of Harry being there. All right. Oh no, I found the other picture. Where's my other picture? What's the picture I found? There we go. All right, I like this picture better. All right, so now they are at G. The kids' money is missing. Now, what could this guy do? Why would he send them to the bakery with the pound note? What is even the purpose? Well, I'm going to say there's a couple possibilities. One is that he wants to get them into his vehicle. And some people point out that on that day, it was so 100 degrees out there. It's so freaking hot that the car itself would be burning up. Is it possible they went to his car, it's burning up. He says to leave your stuff in the car. Here's a pound. Walk up to the bakery, get yourself, get me a pie, get yourself some stuff, and get your parents, get some treats for your parents too while you're there. I will cool the car down with some air conditioning or open the windows or whatever you have in 1966. I'm not even sure. I'll make sure I'll cool the car down and I'll pick you up outside the bakery and take you home. The kids walk into the bakery by themselves, buy the food. They don't know who this guy's name is. There's no house to point to. They just say they're getting the stuff. And then he just pulls up. Hey, kids, jump on in. They jump on in, and then he just drives away with them. That makes a crap load more sense. And if he's an unknown guy in that area, whether he lives on another part of Adelaide, or if you look at the map here, if you're coming out of Adelaide, there's a lot of open country. There's a lot of farming countries. There's just a lot of open space. He could have just simply driven right out of the city to some place that he had some structure on some empty area, and kept them there, did what he wanted to, and buried them on his own property. That's much more likely. Nobody knows who he is. They're like, I don't know, some guy. Nobody recognizes him. Therefore, that's why nobody can identify him, because he's just not from there. If you're from 20 miles away, nobody's going to recognize you. So it doesn't have to be like from the other side of the country. He just has to be not from there. And somebody said, well, he was there the day before. Well, maybe he lives 10 miles outside. Nobody knows him. They drove into the beach. It's hot. He drove in, spent the day, met the kids, chatted with them, said, oh, I'm coming back tomorrow. And he drives away, comes back the next day. Hey, kids. They hang out. He takes their money. And they're like, oh, my God, there's money. But they're comfortable with him. He goes, hey, I got some money. Here, take the pound. Just go up to get the stuff you were going to get. Get me a meat pie. Get some for your parents. I'll just drive you home. It's too hot, and you've already missed the bus, so I'll just drive up the car, and I'll get the windows down, get it cooled off for you. Jump in. Hey, kids, take you home. Only they just don't go home. Now that to me is a much simpler, more reasonable explanation of what happened. I can't prove it, but I can say that the evidence is more suggestive of somebody who took them away in a car and not somebody who walked them down the main street to their house in broad daylight, who was a well-known person. That's just absolute garbage nonsense. And what offends me about it isn't that he couldn't be a suspect, but that they have gone just full at it to say he killed the kids. And they're saying this, and so is the Channel 7 News, that he's the killer of the kids. And because nobody can sue them, they can say whatever they want. And then people are just like, oh my God, yes, it's definitely him. It's definitely him. Everything points to him. Nothing points to him. There's not a shred of proof that A, that he was ever a sexual predator. B, that his son actually was even sexually assaulted. We don't know that. 3, that he was that his son saw anything at the house that day, which makes it, because his story is garbage. And that 4, why would he, a prominent businessman, be that public about kidnapping kids and trying to get rid of their bodies? It's just all of that's just nonsensical. So I'm going to say again, it's a stranger to the area. who drove there in a car, who befriended the kids, and just simply got them to get in his car and drove away. And we'll probably never know who it is, and that's okay, because it's just too late. The parents are dead. They died at the age of 90. It was horrible. They never found out who took their children, and obviously killed them. It's horrible. It's a very horrifying crime. But there's no reason to be pinning it on somebody without any proper evidence, even if you don't like the guy. To me, that's just despicable. Yeah, despicable. Okay, go to your comments now. All right. Open your super chats. No, I will never open the super chats, Loretta. I accidentally did that a couple times, and I get trolls, bots. It becomes a lot of nasty people coming in. Yes, you make a lot of money on super chats. I won't do them. No, never again. I don't care how much money it would make me. It opens it to just people acting trashy and being rude, and it just I don't find it pleasant. And I also don't like people throwing money at me during the show. Like, I feel like a stripper. Oh, thank you for the 10. Thank you for the 15. Thank you for the 5. It just makes me feel very uncomfortable. That's not good. I've made the decision to go Patreon only for live shows, and I'm totally pleased with it. I have you great guys in the chat room, and you add to the show by it's wonderful to have people here to communicate with, not feel like you're just talking straight video all the time. And you support my channel. And if I make 1/10 the amount of money, I'd rather do that than do the other. I will never do the other again. I only did it once by accident because I clicked on the wrong thing and I didn't know where all those people came from. And I did make more money than normal, but I just hated every minute of it, and I won't do it twice. Unless it's another accident. Okay, let me see what you got for comments here. Oh, hold on a second. Hold on. Raise Patreon. Nah, I could raise it. I don't want to. Yeah, super chats are crazy. Yeah, I'm not doing it. Okay, here. Waltzing Matilda says, and once they were in the car driving, he might have said, before I drop you at home, I need to check the kittens at my place. Do you want to see them? Well, once they're in the car, there's not much choices. He probably just says, start eating the food. He could have come up with some excuse for why they were driving in the wrong direction. That's true. They had their food. He could have said anything. And people keep thinking that, the kids are so smart. They might get worried. They might get scared, but they don't know what to do. They're only 9, 7, and 4. I mean, I can control a 9, 7, and 4-year-old because I've driven around with those in my car and I can control them, and I'm a female. I usually say, if you don't behave yourself, I'm going to leave you in cornfield here. That's a long-standing joke. We're driving to the beach, and my granddaughter goes, are we annoying you? Are you going to drop us in that cornfield over there? I'm like, so, Bess, I'm 56. I wouldn't mind the chance of feeling like a stripper. Well, we all have those little fantasies. Oh, Lord. Let's see. Yes, Walter Matilda's also says, yes, and he probably told them to get something for him, so they had to return to him at the car and to hand it over. Then he said, hop on, I'll drive you home. Yes, exactly. I mean, they had to also return the change. And this is why I wish I knew how much change it was, because it wasn't entirely entire pound, $20 US, 32 Australian. It wasn't quite that much for those items. So I'm sure they had to bring back like $10 or whatever. And so he's like, yeah, they weren't going to rip him off. They're kids. And they did have his, his meat pie. So yeah, so they came and they planted and he says, yeah, I'll take you home. Then you missed the bus. He could not even have mentioned he was going to take him home, like you point out, until he went to the shop. Or maybe they were sitting at the bus stop waiting for him. And the bus, he's like, come on now, it's hotter than heck out here. I'll take you home. Again, they're not necessarily going to be suspicious, because how often do even adults kidnap you? I mean, I'm trying to think, when I was a kid, I got in people's car. People took me home and I never thought they were going to kill me. They weren't total strangers, but still, that never occurred to me. And it didn't occur to my parents either. So yeah. Yeah, he could have done that. He could have also gone to get the car while they're in the bakery. That's what I mean. So he could have taken the stuff from them and said, I'll put that in the car. The car could have been there. They could have walked to the car and dumped it. And then he said, here's the money. I'll air the car out. We're never going to know the exact, what happened from A to B, but they did show up at the bakery without him, and so he had to pick them up after they came out of the bakery. Or, according to some people, they walked back to his house, which makes no sense to me at all. Think of a hawk attacking a chicken, feathers everywhere on the ground. Those 3 kids went with somebody willingly, and they took their belongings with them. They didn't actually take the belongings with them because they didn't bring them into the shop. That's why Mullen says, oh, they went to his house and left everything at his house. And then he gave them the pound, told them to go up and get the bakery goods and then come back. That's just nonsense to me. So my belief for that reason is their belongings had to be in a vehicle. So either his vehicle was like, walked to his vehicle and he said, hey, I'm getting the pound and I could take you home. Why don't you just leave your stuff here, and here's the money. And they have a pound in their hand. They're not that worried about what? Some towels? Their money's already missing. They're not worried about their towels and a book. Probably not. You know what I mean? Their dress, they got maybe a couple. They're not going to worry about this minor stuff. They've got a pound in their hand. They're going to get all the food. So somehow that's what he probably worked out with, and once they got the food, that's when they vanished. This is another point. Just don't invite people in the picture. Dig the hole yourself. They're trying to claim that he's so arrogant and so untouchable that he'd hire 2 teenage boys to dig essentially a large grave and give them the money and tell them to F off. And they would never say anything. Now, mind you, if this happened just when the 3 girls went missing and everybody thinks he's a pervert, I mean, they didn't seem to talk about this until, the documentary, or till Mullen showed up again. You see, everybody's showing up with the stories, 40 years later, 50 years later, I'm not buying it. Okay. Also, on Australia Day, people will be out and about. It's not like a regular business day. That's what I would think. I can't believe that it's not like it's, everybody's in school and people are all at work and it was a bad weather day and the kids were out and nobody else was around. This is a day where everybody's out, as far as I can fathom. Beth says, even if he abused his son, it doesn't make him a child killer. Exactly. Did his son try to claim the $1 million reward? I don't know what happened with that. I don't think so. I don't know. That's a good question. I honestly don't know that one. Yes, changing the stories to fit the discoveries or non-discoveries. And we see a lot of this. When a person is trying to convince you, they keep trying to twist everything and say, okay, well, then this could have happened. And then this could have happened. That's not how you analyze properly. And that's not how you investigate properly. And you don't go out looking constantly for more proof to support your theory. And you'll find it one way or the other. And so I just think this is just all nonsense. Don't spoil the satin pajamas. That's the whole thing about the satin pajamas. A lot of people like satin pajamas and satin sheets. It doesn't make you a pervert. It's just ridiculous. Now, if you made satin ball gowns and went out to, it was cross-dressing and, that could be interesting. Doesn't make him a child predator. It just makes him a little weird. A little weird. Okay. Thank you. Let's see what you have to say. Matilda, says Stephanie. That was his first story, but when they checked the place, he said, oh, yes, they had been buried in an accidental cave, and if they weren't there, he switched to saying they're buried at the factory. And wasn't there a sand pit? Claims also a sand pit. So he changes his story. Hayden is not a reliable witness of anything or a reliable anything. And the fact that anybody would give him any kind of credibility is sad. And supposedly everybody's giving him credibility. The woman who was in the show says, oh, I think he's credible. And then he's supposedly given a polygraph and that he's credible. And it's just unbelievable. Print out your pictures so you can hold them up when you misplace them. No, I can do that right on I cannot. Okay. I actually do that all the time. Here are the silk pants. Those are actually his pajamas. And this is supposed to be other silk satins that they found at his house that make him a pervert. And I'm still looking for the sun. I don't know what the heck happened to the sun. I mean, there's just so many things to manage sometimes. I just cannot figure out why the sun disappeared. That's the one that's driving me crazy. It's like, where did he go? Because I could see his face. And I know I took a picture of it, so I don't know why his face has vanished. Where are you, buddy? Where'd you go? Honest to God, I don't know where he went to. That is so weird. Is he in here somewhere? He's got to be in here somewhere. Oh, there he is. I did take a picture of him. I really did. I know I did. But here he is, just so you can see his face. There he is. That's the son, Hayden. Live shows, things don't go well sometimes. And things just go wrong. You try every time to get everything right, and you swear things are there, and they're just, because there's so much to put together, that sometimes maybe I'm incompetent. Maybe that's just it. I'm incompetent. Let's see. Let me go back down here. Yeah. So, oh yes, this one. Oh my God, that's the other one. The guy who said his dad killed Jennifer Short. I did a thing on Black Dahlia, and yes, this guy wrote the most ridiculous book about why his dad was the murderer of Jennifer Short, and it, again, doesn't hold water in any way, shape, or form. And the stuff is just ludicrous. But not only does the guy who says daddy killed Black Dahlia, he's got a book, but he's also got this huge following. He's got some website, and he's constantly getting people to follow him. He's getting a huge amount of attention. And then we got Mullins here. Now he's got this is his second book. He's got the documentary. He's got a YouTube channel, which he just stands up and he keeps explaining all these things. Oh, and he's not very nice when you disagree with him. So I'm sure he's going to find out about the show, and he's going to be very unhappy with me. And let me see if I can find the thing he said about, I got to find things again. Oh no. I wish the tiniest little things, I can't see them. But he said this, I'm going to just whip through this a second. I'm going to try to find this, because he said these things about Wayne, because Wayne said, my son, my father didn't do these things. And Hayden's a mess. Where is it? Oh, here we go. So he says, Nigel Hunt does this interview of Wayne Phipps. I told Major Crime the truth about my family when they first contacted me 11 years ago regarding claims against my father, Harry, by my muddled older brother, Hayden. Stuart Mullins' response is, maybe Wayne would like to also discuss his muddled past. Really? And he does a lot of insulting of Wayne, really trashes him and says he's not paying attention to any of the evidence, and he's just really nasty toward him. And here's a guy who truly believes his brother is full of it, and that he loved his dad, and he thinks this is appalling what's happening. And instead of saying things like, I understand where Wayne's coming from, it's maybe he didn't ever know anything was going on, blah, blah, blah. No, instead he just insults the living heck out of Wayne. And it's very vicious because Wayne disagrees with his brother. So he has some really nasty things to say about him. So not nice at all. Yeah, I might be hearing from him. But I'm sorry, Stuart, I don't buy your theory. I think it isn't supported by evidence. You think there's 30 pieces of circumstantial evidence. No, those are stories you've created that you're trying to connect the dots, and the dots don't connect. And you have zero proof. Zero. And I stand by that. Whether it's well accepted or it's not well accepted, I'm going to stick with it. Because I was not convinced. And I knew nothing of this case to speak of, and I have no reason to prefer one suspect over the other. I just was 100% not convinced it was him. I personally think it's none of the well-known ones. I think it's just somebody that, unless the what's his name, the guy who was taken to court for the murders of the two little girls, unless it was him. And he, for some reason, was in Adelaide. I could believe he would do it. That would make a lot more sense to me, that he, for some reason, was in Adelaide and he had this opportunity to find, go down to the beach, and he took advantage of it. And he found two little girls, and okay, some collateral damage with the brother, but took him off and did something to him. And he drove far away because he didn't even live in Adelaide. So he could have driven anywhere and done something to them on all that open land. I'd be more likely to believe it was him than Phipps. I can't come up with anything that Phipps makes any sense. So let me go back to, what's his name again? I just want to reiterate his name because I can't remember names. Where'd he go? Where's my guy? Okay. Oh, it was Arthur Stanley Brown. Arthur Stanley Brown. I would say of the known suspects, I would say he is the best. This one, Arthur Stanley Brown. I think he's the best known suspect, but he'd have to, because he committed a crime similar, at least he's believed to have committed a crime similar. And he lured girls and he got them in his car and he killed two young girls, very similar ages. It all depends whether he was in Adelaide, and there's no proof he was in Adelaide. So there's no way to say he did the crime, because it could be another creepy dude in Adelaide who is just like him, who just was never discovered. So that, as a profiler, what I won't say is like, oh, well, I know he did it. I don't know that he did it. All I can say is maybe I think he's got way more going for him than Phipps. But but it could be a complete unknown. That just, and therefore the case is never going to be solved, in my opinion. So it is what it is. But I think actually saying that somebody is a killer when you've got really no proof whatsoever, I wish the family could sue for him, saying that, because even there are cases where I think I'm pretty sure somebody is likely to have done it. I still won't say they did it, because I can't say they did it, because if they had enough proof, they would have taken them to court. There's cases which dear to my heart, which I'm like, pretty sure I know who did it. But I won't say that. I'll say this person would be my top suspect. That's all I can say. He'd be my top suspect, but I don't have enough to prove that he did it. I can't say he's a killer. And they shouldn't say that, that Phipps is a killer either, Harry. Because they've got nothing. They've got nothing except a son that says, a questionable witness who is totally unbelievable, that his dad brought the three girls home and did something to them, and he's not believable. Even if he was sexually assaulted by his dad and his dad likes silky stuff, he's still unbelievable. And nothing that makes any sense matches the crime scene either. So, yeah, I just think but it's amazing how many people are just out there in the internet world. Are like, I'd say 95% of the people believe that he is the one who abducted and killed the Beaumont children. So, are any of them alive? I think all of them are dead. I think they're all dead, as far as I know. Yeah, he's definitely dead, because you can't sue him. I think they're all pretty much all dead, because this all happened in the 60s. So we're talking, it's been over 60 years. So everybody's dead, or they're in their late 80s. Barney Miller. That could be. Mullins looks like Barney Miller. I love Barney Miller. It was a great show. At least it was good in the days, good in the days. Clarissa says, sad and sucks somebody got away with this crime and the poor parents had to cope with it for their long lives. Yeah, they lived until their 90s. They end up separated. They divorced and just lived separately, and just, I can't even imagine. I don't know. I can't even imagine. It's one of those things you don't even want to think about what you'd do if it were you. It is horrifying. Horrifying. Let's see if any more comments before I end it for tonight. Stephanie says, they almost presented the whole story from Hayden as if it were recovered memories too. So there's that. Yes. Unbelievable. I mean, this is what drives me crazy. This is a news channel doing documentary, and it's supposed to be somewhat legitimate. And you should have pride in the fact that what you're going to put out there has basis in fact. But they don't care. They will, if they have something they think will make them money, they will bring on any idiot and have him spew whatever he's going to spew out there because it brings in the dollars. And I've seen so many ridiculous documentaries. It's just sad. It's really sad because this could be a very interesting documentary if you just did it rationally and you did it honorably and as professionals, as opposed to this nonsense. I mean, the stuff they said, if you go watch that documentary, the way they say everything in the documentary is absolutely outrageous. It's outrageous. It's just a pack of lies and a bunch of hyperbole. Leslie says lots of people throwing dads under the bus. Well, if you have a personality disorder, I'm not saying that certain people did, but you have issues and you don't like the world and you don't like your parents and you don't like your dad or whatever, throwing them under the bus is not a big deal because it brings you attention. It excuses your own behavior and it might bring you money. All depends, so it's really sad that that's something that, but that's why you can't just believe somebody because they say, when I was a kid, this happened to him, or I saw this. That's not proof. You have to have enough to support that there's any truth in any of the stuff that he's saying. And I don't see that. His brother says his father never assaulted his brother. He said knew nothing of it. He was never assaulted. And so, I guess the claim is that the older brother took the brunt of it. And then he wouldn't let his father hurt his little brother. But because he threatened his dad, he'd punch him. Okay. It's just a story from somebody. And it could be true, but there's no proof of it. That's the problem. There's really no proof. And, because your father wears silk pajamas doesn't prove anything. So, Pat, do you think the boyfriend was the perp? Do you think this feels like grooming, even if it's from one day before, or a crime of opportunity? I would say, I think it was, a predator will often lurk around places and look for those opportunities. It's possible that the day before the opportunity didn't happen. And then the kids said, oh, we want to come back tomorrow. And he's like, okay, see you then. And then the opportunity showed up for him, and then he took advantage of it. So yeah, the boyfriend, it's a good question. It's hard to know whether the younger sister was talking about a boy maybe she was playing with at the beach and she thought she'd see him again. He could have been 10 years old, or whether she's talking about the guy that they met. And, because there are kids who like to, I don't know, a lot of girls will say something, or even boys will say, I want to marry you when I grow up. And they're talking to an adult who's 20 years old because they like that adult. The adult's treating them nice. And they have this kind of romantic notion. They're not thinking about sex, mind you. This is not what they're doing. It's a romantic notion that this person, it's like a Prince Charming. And this Prince Charming is what the guy who takes you away on this no horse and all that stuff. So, she could have viewed him in that little, childish romantic way, not a sexual way, just a childish way. And yeah, so then the other kids, she liked him and she's giggling with him, and the other ones, oh, she found a boyfriend, because kids say stuff, So yeah, do I think it's the same guy? Yes. Do I think he was grooming them? Well, in a sense that any child predator does that on a regular basis, looking for the day he's got an opportunity. And on that day, for whatever reasons, he got that opportunity. And I do believe that the only reason he could take the opportunity is because he's pretty sure nobody could identify him. So, let's see. Walter Matilda says, Google scenario fulfillment. It's when you convince yourself that something is happening or happened in a certain way, even though the evidence disputes it. That's a good definition. I like that. Let's see. Beth says, beach towns attract people from outside of town. Yes, they do. This guy could have been there the day before looking for kids. Indeed. I mean, either that or he just wanted to go to the beach. People, predators, serial killers, they like going to the beach. They like watching football games. They do normal things like normal people. It's just that while they're doing those normal things, you know how, let's say a regular guy goes to the beach. Let's get this straight. So let's say a guy who's 25, 30 years old, is not married yet, goes to the beach. Do you think he goes to the beach just to look for girls? Or do you think sometimes he goes to the beach because he likes the beach, but he doesn't mind looking for girls? Because pretty much any time when I was a teenager and went to the beach, I wanted to go to the beach, but I also wanted to see the guys. I mean, it's just kind of a natural thing. So, people go to beaches, but they also are on the lookout. So predators aren't different than non-predators in that sense, that they have regular things that they do, but while they're doing the regular things, they might incorporate something else they enjoy. So I put it that way. Claire says, I'm still where was at the beginning. I don't think it was Phipps, and we'll never know who. No, we won't. But Phipps is, of all the suspects, he's the one I think I'm least likely to suspect. Because I can't place him there. And this whole bit that all this crap about the dollar, the pound note as being the key to the whole case, that only Phipps would ever, he used pound notes, so therefore, because the girls had a pound note, it's obviously him. Wow, that is a big jump to conclusion. That's just crazy. That's a big, massive jump. That's just nonsense. I mean, that's not how you come to conclusions. But it is a way you try to convince people that you're right, and people fall for it. They go, oh my God, that's right. He's the one that gave out pound notes too. Clearly, oh my God, he gave the girls a pound note. It must be him. That's why I have this show. That's why I have this show, because I want to help people understand how things really work, what's logical, what's nonsensical, how to put things together and at least come up with something more rational. I hope that I achieved that in this show. That's all my whole thing here. So, Pat, are you saying you were a predator of handsome teenage boys? Might have been. I might have been. Might have been. I don't know how well I did with it, though. I didn't date much when I was a teenager at all. So I think I pretty much failed. I think my sister was really better at that than me. Yeah, she was definitely better. But I used to hang with her because I was hoping it would rub off on me. Anyway, okay, that's it. Fascinating case. And it wasn't a trajectory that I was planning to go when I took a look at it. But once I read this book and saw this documentary, I was like, well, now I'm doomed. I can't go someplace else with it. So I hope you got something out of this, and thank you for being here, everybody in the chat room. I appreciate it. And yes, patrons, it's only $5 a month. I don't want to raise it. I just don't want to make it something that's a lot of money. But it does help. It does help support the channel. So again, if you're new to the channel and want to be in the chat room with great people, and see, I know people's names. I don't have a whole bunch of bots and haters in here. So I actually know people, and they get to know each other. And there's also a community where people can talk with each other. So it's a nice way to go, and I'm going to stay with it. So please do think about joining Patreon. And as I say, just subscribing to the channel makes a huge difference. Believe you me, that does make a difference. So do appreciate any support you can give. But I'm happy that the channel is surviving at the moment, and that means I can continue doing shows like this. And I have so many more plans for the channel. I just have to live long enough to do them. so I hope nothing bad is coming down the pike. So you never know. Thank you, Walter Matilda. I appreciate that. Good time slot. I purposely did it at this time so that it will be 11 a.m. in Australia. Right. So I try to keep that in mind. And some people say, why did you do a show on Saturday? It's because it's Super Bowl Sunday tomorrow. So I'm planning to spend Super Bowl Sunday with my family watching the Kansas City Chiefs win, because they're my team, even though I don't live in Kansas City. at all. So I never have. So most welcome, Stephanie. Bye, Sky Ricky, Loretta. Almost 40,000. Yes. Finally hitting 40,000. I hear at 50,000 that does help the channel. I don't know if that's true. Being at 100,000 would probably be my massive goal. If I could get to 100,000, I think this channel would be would be in a good, it would be in a good, safe place for survival, permanent survival. After that, everything is nice and be more like gravy. But yeah, I'd be happy just to have a channel that can function, because I am working full time at the channel. So, and it doesn't pay like other stuff does, unless you got like those 2 million subscribers, which I don't have. So, yeah, there's so many things you can do, and I can also do gossip. I can do 50 more shows on this. I can do the super that, open it to the public. There's a million things I can do that would just shoot this right up, and I won't do them because this is an educational channel, and I don't want anything but an educational channel, and I'm good with that. Yeah, I'd rather have what I think is useful to other people than a bunch of garbage. I'm not here just for entertainment. If I just wanted to make money and entertain, that would be a whole different game, and that's not one I want to play. So other people might do that, but it's not my thing. So I'm good. I'm good. So anyway, thank you all for being here. Sorry about the few pictures I lost yet again. I tell you, where do they go? Where do they go? And I will see you for the Hangout during the week. It's probably going to be this Wednesday at 3 p.m. Eastern. That's my guess. So do show up then, those who are patrons. And again, everything is made public. So I don't want anybody to miss out on learning just because you don't want to join Patreon. So it's all good. See you later.